Hey, welcome back. Make sure you have your guided notes out for connecting, and let's get started. Here's some monkeys. Yay, happy monkeys. So, when we're talking about connecting as a reading strategy, what does that mean? Well, it means that the reader interacts with the text, and a text can be anything from a video to an article to a story to a picture book or a song. The reader interacts with the text, thinking about how their own personal experiences or other literature that they have read before relates to what they are currently reading. So the example bubble over here says, as I read this article, it made me think about how people don't take care of their trash. It reminds me of when I saw garbage in the water when I was out on the boat. So when you're making connections, you're trying to find those similarities between what you already know and what you're reading, which will help you to remember that information longer. So how does connecting help you? Well, it helps you to make meaning out of the text. It helps you to understand it better if you can relate to it. It also similarly aids in comprehension, which we already know means understanding. So if you can relate to it, you're making meaning out of the text, you're comprehending the text better, and it helps you to learn by extending what you already know. So you have this existing knowledge base based upon things you've read, things that you've seen, things you've experienced, and you're just adding to that by making connections with new literature. So where do your connections come from? Well, that's the tough part. They come from your brain. So sometimes connections come really easily and naturally, and other times you have to force them. But either way, if you're able to finally make a connection, you are going to remember what you read better and understand it better. So it can come from books, magazines, articles, or other texts that you have read. Maybe your brain has stored away some movies, television shows that you could have seen, things that you have learned in classes at school. We all know that you don't remember everything you learned in school, but you do remember a lot of it, so that's stored away in your brain. Personal life experiences, those are hard to forget, so that's where a lot of your connections come from. And if you read the news in the newspaper or a magazine, or if you watch the news on TV, connections to the world can come from that. So when connecting, what do strategic readers do? And we want you to be strategic readers, meaning you use your reading strategies. Strategic readers store new information that they're getting from the text in their long and short-term memory by hooking old information with the new stuff. So you're basically taking that information you already have stored in your brain, taking it out of the file cabinets, getting out a hook and going and reeling the new stuff in so that you can't forget it because you're connecting it to something that you've already got up there. So there are three different types of connections that you need to know. Text to self means that you're just connecting the text to your own personal experiences from your life. Text to text means you're connecting to other things you've read, other things you've seen, other things you've heard, like audiobooks. And then text to world means that you're connecting whatever you're reading to the news or to world events or to school lessons that you might learn, for example, in history class, or when we read the paragraph in English about the dog at the zoo that was supposed to be a stand-in for a lion. You have that background information knowledge now, so if you ever read some other crazy article about a zoo pretending to have animals that they didn't really have, you would be able to make connections to other worldly news that you had heard. So before we move on from these three types of connections, I want to show you what those would look like in practice. And so in order to do that, we are going to use a text that is not a traditional text. We are going to use the song Black or White by Michael Jackson, except for this is the Glee version of that song. So I'm going to put the lyrics up on the screen and just be thinking about what text to self, text to text, and text to world connections you personally would make with this song.
They put my message in the Saturday Sun. I had to tell them I ain't second to none. And I told about equality. Ain't it true either you're wrong or you're right? But if you're thinking about my baby, it don't matter if you're black or white.
Okay, so I like that song because it's an easy one to use to quickly show you how to make 3 different types of connections. So if we're talking about text to world connections, and I'm thinking about things that I know are happening in the world. Well, I have seen on the news that there are still, unfortunately, white supremacist groups in the country. And so I was just trying to remember what the names of those groups were. And I know that I've seen documentaries about those groups, which are nonfiction news reports, essentially. And so I was looking on the Florida Department of Corrections website, and obviously it had the Ku Klux Klan on here, but the one that I was thinking about was the Aryan Nations, and this is a symbol that's used by the Aryan Nations, which is a neo-Nazi group in Idaho, based in Idaho. So my connection between what I had heard about the Aryan Nations in the news and this song is that obviously, based on the title, Black or White, and the lyrics, Michael Jackson is singing about how to him it doesn't matter if a person is black or white, but there's a lot of people out there in the world who are still very racist and very prejudiced, despite the fact that slavery was abolished 130 years ago at least. So I was thinking about the lines where it said, I'm not going to spend my life being a color. And I can make a personal connection to that, text to self, because I definitely try to spend my life not focusing on skin color at all and just worried about, what's on the inside of a person. And I also made a connection with, don't tell me you agree with me when I saw you kicking dirt in my eye. And that goes beyond. It surpasses racist issues, even just between friends. Somebody can easily say like, oh, your white skin doesn't bother me, and then turn around and, act in an opposite manner with someone else. So I can make a personal connection there. And if we're talking about a text-to-text connection, I was thinking about the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, which is all about racism in Alabama in the 1930s, and how there was a man put on trial and wrongfully accused solely because he was black. So those are all the different connections I can make to this song, which make me like it better, which make me understand it better, and which help me to remember it longer. Okay, so when should a reader make connections? Well, you should do it before reading. Think about what you already know about the topic. You should make connections during reading. What does the text remind you of? That's what you should be thinking about. And then also after reading, before, during, and after. So with a nonfiction text, you should think about, did you or can you compare this text with other information that you've heard on the topic? With a fiction text, you could think about, can I make a connection to the mood, the plot events, or the theme of this story? And other information you might want to know. The more connections you make, the easier it is to understand and remember the text. If you do not think you have any connections to make about the text, think harder. I don't have a connection will not be an acceptable response. Some texts are more difficult to relate to than others. I will acknowledge that, so you have to use your brain more. Connecting becomes easier the more you read and the more you experience in your life. This is why making connections helps you to learn. You increase your knowledge base, and after a while, connecting becomes easier because you know more. So, that is all about connecting. So make sure that you are ready for the quiz, and we will see ya tomorrow.